So many women have negotiated their identity away. This is a rewind episode. I hope you enjoy it. The universe isn't just out there, it's interacting with you. This is Tracy with Tracy Talks, and I'm here to ignite your curiosity. Don't just listen, embrace it. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and share with others who would enjoy listening to this podcast. Friends can find Tracy Talks available on iTunes, Spotify, Substack, and YouTube. Hit me up on Instagram at more Tracy Talks. It can be difficult to find yourself when you have negotiated pieces of you away for years. Many of us don't even realize what we're doing because it happens in small little increments over time. And there are certain parts of me that I probably even negotiated away in my childhood to be more accepted. And it's a hard task to come back to embracing who you are at the fullest, being able to express yourself to the fullest in everyday life. Looking back now, I can't help but wonder where my mindset was when I entered into marriage. I wasn't young, but yet my approach to marriage and to the idea and the responsibility and what was going to happen I still look at myself and think I was extremely naive. We didn't talk about the gender roles. We didn't talk about gender identities and the gender dynamics. And I can think where some people may hear this and think, why do we have to talk about that? But I find it interesting how I identified as a strong, independent woman, free thinker, and yet there was this falling back into stereotypical gender roles. It was probably an unconscious of what I guess at some level I thought was my role and where I should be. And I don't want to say that it was bad because in many ways I am a very domestic person. And so filling those roles does bring me joy. And there's this dichotomy of I really do enjoy doing it. But then when the task takes on a gendered identity and a responsibility, then the role kind of changes shape and it doesn't feel the same. And then it feels like a responsibility and not just something that I enjoy doing. And when in a relationship, there are constant negotiations and discussions that are made because there's limited time. There are limited resources. There are negotiations and discussions about, what everybody's going to be doing and how are we going to spend our time and as a family and how are we going to manage it. And so there's a lot of negotiating that goes into maintaining a relationship. Who is making the decisions? Whose voice is being heard and how are you expressing what you really want? And was I really expressing what I wanted? Was he? I had a job in furniture sales, and our store was located very close to a community where elderly people transitioned into later in life. And I was working with this woman, and she wanted to pick out a new sofa. She spent a lot of time in the store, thoughtfully sitting on the different sofas, really looking at the aesthetics and how they felt. And then she had to pick out fabric colors and pillow covers. She checked out her fabrics and she took them back to her space to make sure that she was going to like those colors with her existing furniture and the paint and the carpet. And when she came back the next day, she had made her decision, and we were in the process of writing up her order, placing the order, when she looked at me and she asked, "Are you married?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, it's so nice to be able to pick out a sofa that I want with the colors and the fabrics that I want, and I don't have to ask for my husband's opinion." And being in the community, I automatically assumed that he had passed, and so I said, "I'm sorry, when did you lose your husband?" And she said, "Well, I lost him 30 years ago, but I still remember what it felt like to have to ask him." I just remember thinking, oh my, she was remembering a feeling from 30 years ago. I myself have felt this. I have talked to friends that feel this, that somehow when we got married, we started shutting parts of ourselves down so we could maintain the relationship. If we showed too much of ourselves, or if we expressed too much of what we wanted, we were then labeled from everything from being controlling, manipulative, self-centered. We want to make it all about us. We don't even realize how we shut off parts of ourselves. We turn our lights down. We dim ourselves. We dim our desires. We dim our creativity. We learn to dim everything to make a relationship work. Here was a woman in her 70s that still felt the sting, still felt the pain of having to negotiate what she really wanted. It's a sofa. It's color fabrics, but had to compromise and change and wasn't allowed to decide. Women are doing it every day. We want so badly for the relationship to work. We want so badly for everything to work out that we make too many compromises. We make too many concessions. We chip away at the most beautiful parts of ourselves. We chip them away. We lock them up. It's not a healthy place. I know that was one of my struggles, was figuring out the identity. Who am I? Am I safe to show up as myself? There's still work to be done in our gender roles and what that means for us as a civilization, as a humanity. It seems like there are people who want to keep things the same and not change, but yet I can only speak for one half of the relationship, and there are a lot of women who have negotiated their identity away and are waking up in their midlife, having to work hard to recreate their self, their identity, and their life, and have reached a point where they're no longer willing to negotiate. Thank you for listening to this episode of Tracy Talks. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and share with others who would enjoy listening to this podcast. Friends can find Tracy Talks available on iTunes, Spotify, Substack, and YouTube. Hit me up on Instagram at @moretracytalks. And until next time, we meet again.